This is a House Hightower Green Skittles Apple Sour. It is one of the weirder beer names I thought I'd ever say in my life as a brewer, but this is our part 2 of our House of the Dragon mini-series, making a green beer for the greens versus the blacks, black IPA for House Targaryen from last week. So let's get stuck into the brew day so we can show you how we made this and we can see which house is going to win the Game of Thrones in this season of House of the Dragon. Let's get stuck in. For our hop profile, we're going pretty small because it's a sour, it's not really about the hops. So just 6 grams of Huell melon at the start of the boil at the 60-minute mark, and at the 5-minute mark, 15 grams of Huell melon for a subtle fruity kind of melony flavor to complement the actual sour effects of the beer. And we're really only shooting for 9 IBUs on this one, so pretty tame on hops. Yeast and souring. So in this case, which lactobacillus are we going to use? For the yeast, we're going to just run with US-05, very clean fermenting ale yeast so that it can let this souring effect be the star of the show. For the lactobacillus, we are once again going to be using Yakult. So each of these little bottles holds 6.5 billion cells, supposedly. So we are going to run with using, I dropped one, 6 of them, and the one I dropped. So we're going to pitch 6 of these around 30 to 35 degrees Celsius into the wort, let it sour up for, I'm guessing it'll take about 24 hours. And you've got to just do little pH measurements every 6 to 12 hours in between that so that you can start boiling the beer to stop the souring effect right where you like it. If you want to get more directly involved with the channel, see more behind the scenes on what we're working on, the projects we have on the go, as well as like weird fun things like our reaction video to all the House of the Dragon episodes being released and the drinking games that we're going to be playing with it, you can check all of that stuff out in our new Patreon. The link is in the description down below. Back to video. As per usual, when it comes to our sours, we're running with the same grain ratio. So 53% being Pilsner malt, 47% being wheat malt. That's it, nice clean fermentation. It's a Berliner Weiss style, so basically a soured wheat beer. Let's get crushing. And away we go. We're stuck. Come on. I need to get a new grain mill, Odin.
Oh, maybe that's a new video, building a grain mill.
Yeah. Hang on.
Or just buy one.
Come on, come on. Hang on, hang on. We'll get there eventually. There we go. She's alive. And time to mash in. Let's get started. Right, so we are gonna be mashing in at, we're gonna be mashing in at 65 degrees Celsius for 1 hour, because the goal here is to finish around that kind of 1008 kind of gravity, so fairly dry finish. And the whole idea behind these grains here is we're basically just giving it a really balanced profile for a Berliner Weiss. Same as we've used for all the other sours on this channel. The whole idea being that, yes, the wheat's in there because it's technically a wheat beer, but after the souring effect, that wheat ends up kind of feeling quite dry. So having a high quantity of wheat comparatively helps the final mouthfeel feel quite balanced, because the real star of the show with any sour is the actual sour flavor, not the grain bill. I do have the trusty, paint mixer today, so it makes mashing in nice and easy. That just is so much easier than a mash paddle. If you guys haven't watched our video on equipment every brewer should own, or every home brewer should own, give it a watch. We'll tag it, wherever it shows up there. Paint mixer is one of them. Absolutely worthwhile. Just makes everything so much easier. We're just chatting about House of the Dragon, and if you haven't watched it, sorry, a lot of this video is going to be about that. So for regular viewers that don't watch it, you'll still get a good beer. For the rest of you, we're going to talk about House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones, basically. So the reason that we're making a sour for House Hightower is because, well, A, it needs to be a green beer because that's the color of their house, but B, I see House Hightower as like the snakes and conniving and like they got no real claim to the throne and it's all a bit of a mess. But have you seen Alicent's face? She looks sour. So if she's that salty and that sour with about everyone around her, we've got to make a sour beer for them. Okay, now we are gonna be mashing in for 1 hour at that 65 degrees Celsius. I'm gonna recirculate this around to help improve our efficiency. Start your clocks, and we'll be back at the end of this to start sparging before we start souring. We're back, and now we are starting to sparge. That's actually draining a little bit slower than I was expecting, so maybe I should have added a few more rice hulls in there. In any case, it doesn't matter too much. I'm just gonna put the stopper on this so that, scheisse, that was hot. So that I can start dumping the sparge water over top. So what we're gonna do is, oh, by the way, I forgot to say when we actually mashed in, that was 15.5 liters. That in gallons. Gonna do the exact same thing for sparging, except the water is gonna be at 77 degrees Celsius to kill all the enzyme activity. So we're gonna start pouring that over top to wring out the sponge, as I like to say. So if you are, I'm dropping things. If you are new to brewing, this step here is basically just about increasing your efficiency from the grains that you're using. So these grains that we're draining the sugary liquid called wort out of still hold a whole bunch of sugars. Even after all the liquid drains out, the same way that when you put a sponge into a bucket of soapy water, pull it out, squeeze it, it's still got soap in it. You can put it in a bucket of like fresh water, squeeze it out, you'll get more soap suds out. That's basically what we're doing with this fresh water over the top of the grain bed. We're just draining out all the extra sugars that we can. Okay, about halfway done with that water there. So we're gonna let this drain out, dump the rest in, and then we are gonna start, actually I could start now. I'm gonna start cooling this thing down to lactobacillus pitching temperature. So I will come back to you guys once we're around 30 to 35 degrees Celsius. Okay, we have finished sparging and we are sitting with around about, what is that, 1, 2, 3, around about 26, 27 liters of wort. Time to pitch our Yakult, because this I estimate will take about 24 hours to sour with this pitch rate. So we are running with 39 billion cells apparently by using 6 of these Yakults. And for those of you that have never made a kettle sour before, it's a really basic principle. Essentially, the lactobacillus bacteria in these Yakults is gonna drop the pH of this wort and create our souring effect. And then after that, you boil this wort, so you kill off all the bacteria, so it's not gonna infect your tanks or anything. And what you're left with is the ability to ferment with any other yeast strain that you want. So if you want to go for like a really estery yeast strain, you could push it that way. If you want to go really clean like us with USO5, the world's your oyster after that. So kettle sours are really cool in that way, that they give you full control of pH and the freedom to use any other yeast and stuff without infecting any of the equipment that you're actually working with. All right. Also keep this between 30 to 35 degrees Celsius. That's the kind of optimal range for lactobacillus to really wake up and do its thing. I'm just realizing I did not take a pH reading before I did this. I'll take a sample from the bottom and then get a pH reading. Well, up there is where the pH is. All right, time to close her up and wait until tomorrow. It is now 32 hours since you were last with us on camera, and we reached a final pH of 3.47, which is kind of, you know, near enough is good enough for what we're going for this. I tasted the wort, it was beautifully sour, had a nice kind of tangy sweetness to it. So we're now at boiling and we have stopped the souring process. It is time to add our boiling hops. So this is our 60-minute edition of Huell Melon, 6 grams, which is going to give us the majority of our 9 minor IBUs for this one. So in they go, start your clocks, and then at the 15-minute mark, we'll add whirl flock, and then we'll come back to you when we've got 5 minutes left to go and we add our final hop addition. So see you in a sec. We now have 5 minutes left in the boil, so it's time to add our 15 grams of Huell Melon hops for our final hop addition of the day. After 5 more minutes of this, we're gonna go flame out and start cooling this thing down to yeast pitching temperature. And there we have it. We are now coming out at yeast pitching temp, which is about 21, 22 degrees Celsius. And we're gonna be pitching 12 grams of USO5. So this is just a very clean, easy fermenting ale yeast. It's not gonna throw up a bunch of esters or anything else that are gonna cloudy the rest of the flavors that are going on with this sour. So it really allows the actual characteristics of the sour and, you know, the Skittles to really shine through in the final product. Once this is full, we're gonna pitch, and then the next time you guys see me will be when I'm throwing in that big bag of Skittles to turn this thing green to make it a green sour apple Hightower sour. I'll see you in a second. It is now day 7 for this green apple Hightower sour. So it's time to dry hop. I've taken a final gravity reading. We are sitting at about 1.006, which is very much final gravity, pretty quick fermentation, which means it's now time to throw all of our Skittles in there. Our green apple sour, a sour green apple Skittles. You get the idea. So I need to release the pressure up top here and open up this thing, and I'm gonna do this part nice and quick. Actually, what I should probably do is open up the bag of Skittles first so I can actually dump it in faster. Let's do that without ripping the bag. Nice. I'm not really into Skittles, to be honest, but I guess good for the video. So let's sit that there for a second and open up the top. Do this part nice and quickly so you don't expose it to too much oxygen. This was pressure fermenting, so there is probably a bit of a CO2 blanket thing going on. Oh my God, I almost spilled. Go in. Come on, come on, go, 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 go. Last Skittle, get in there. Yes. And we are good. Let's close this up. If I can get it back on the track, there we go. All right, I am now gonna let this pressure ferment up to 15 PSI so we can get a little bit of carbonation in before kegging this bad boy. I don't have the ability to cold crash this thing yet, so it is what it is. Once I've started to see a bit of a color change in this thing, I'm hoping we start to get this green tinge coming through. I'm probably gonna go 2 days. I'll transfer this into a keg, and then you will see me when I can fill this glass. There we go, bit of video magic never hurts, but here she is. It's not quite the dark emerald green of like an actual Skittle. It's almost more like a toxic nuclear yellow green type of thing going on. But it smells like Skittles. Like the waft, like as soon as it comes off the tap, it fills the other side of the room. You just smell Skittles. It is wild how much of that flavor has come through. Actually tastes really good. So it's definitely acidic, definitely sour, but it's got a ton of that candy residual sweetness coming through, which is actually like super, super nice. It almost feels like drinking an RTD. It doesn't really feel like beer. It feels like lolly water with a bit of vodka thrown in. That's what this thing is. But anyway, I can't give you the full tasting notes because I need you guys to watch the next video where we do this against the House Targaryen Black IPA and we see which house is gonna win the Game of Thrones in House of the Dragon. So we'll catch you guys next week. Thanks for watching. It's been a long day. See you guys then.